Welcome. I'm Katibe Simmone. I'm a soul evolution coach. I'm also a workshop facilitator, an author, and speaker. I write and talk about very spiritual and metaphysical topics. I had a spiritual awakening in 2009, and I realized that I'm more than a human being, that I am a spiritual being in a human form to have my highest evolution for what my soul desired in this incarnation for me. And that just shifted my consciousness dramatically. And from that, I developed extrasensory perceptions or psychic abilities. You can say that these abilities were always there, but my spiritual awakening in the spring of 2009 actually activated them. I also began to have numerous lucid out-of-body experiences in my sleep state at nighttime prior to my awakening. My dream time was pretty normal and average. I would remember a few dreams here and there, but nothing extraordinary. But after my awakening, my dream time changed, and I use dream times as a synonym to having an out-of-body experience. I believe that when we are in an altered state of consciousness, as in our sleep state, that we naturally exit a level of our consciousness exits because it is free and uninhibited. Our ego is inactive or dormant at that time. So a level of our consciousness actually goes to other dimensional realms of reality, to have adventures, to learn, to interact with other dimensional beings or even people that we know on the earthly plane. We interact with them and their level of consciousness. It's a fascinating study, and I've developed a conceptual framework for it because I've had so many out of bodies, and I wanted to understand what was going on and to better navigate and maneuver. I've heard telepathically that I'm meant to teach what I know. I'm meant to chronicle what I know. Hence, I have a blog, and I share my extraordinary day-to-day experiences and out of bodies on there. I also, from time to time, do what I'm doing today. Today is July 23rd, 2019. It's a Tuesday afternoon. I'm sharing an extraordinary out-of-body I had on Saturday, July 20th, 2019. And that out-of-body ended at 4:52 a.m. on July 20th, 2019. And the reason why I feel this is so important and significant to talk about out-of-body experiences is to teach people that we are so much more than this current incarnation. Some of you might not even believe in incarnations or past lives or future lives or parallel lives, but nevertheless, I have experienced those many times in out-of-body experiences when I'm sleeping or in deeper states of meditation. And so the importance of that is understanding that we are multidimensional beings. Our existence here on this planet, as I'm talking to you now, is only one level of consciousness, but we have many levels of consciousness. You may have heard of the super consciousness, the subconscious, the conscious, and the unconscious. I'm not going to get into the semantics and labeling of the different levels of consciousness. I'm going to talk more generally and just let you know that you have many levels of consciousness that you are not aware of. When and if you become a lucid dreamer, you may catch glimpses or even have recollections like I have. And when you realize you're a multidimensional being and you can travel and a part of your consciousness can actually travel to other dimensional realities, it is really mind-altering. And because I've experienced it firsthand, directly, I'm not just reading about this topic in a book, though I love to read about these topics, it is so much more meaningful and significant. So when you have a lucid out-of-body, I feel you would feel the same. It is very similar, comparable to a near-death experience where it really just shifts your consciousness and you start to get a glimpse and an understanding that our lives are so much more than we know. What happened is during my spiritual awakening, I became more conscious and lucid in my day-to-day state. When I was awake, began to notice things around me more intently and with more detail, including nature and even sensing nature. And that level of awareness and consciousness carried over to my sleep time, my dream time, hence lucid out of bodies. When I say lucid, I mean that you are able to remember the details pretty clearly of what you are experiencing. Another definition of lucidity is that you're actually able to control your actions. That's how lucid you are in your sleep time. Many times I'm a viewer and I am an observer in my out of bodies, but not necessarily a controller of my actions. I'm really an audience member, and that's okay. Sometimes I am lucid enough to control my thoughts and my behaviors, but many times I am just at that level of lucidity to recall the details of what transpired for me to relay this in written form or this type of modality through a video. I'm going to explain some of the precursors to this out of body. I don't initiate out of bodies actively. They happen naturally and spontaneously. So I don't work at it. I could, and I have in the past, but I found it very laborious and actually a little draining. So I just let things happen naturally when I'm in an altered state of consciousness. I mentioned earlier that because of my spiritual awakening 10 years ago, I developed psychic perceptions. And one of those perceptions is called clear audience, where you can hear music, sound tones, noises in your mind that others around you cannot hear. And that also includes words and sentences as telepathy. So I realized I can hear things telepathically from time to time inside my mind and in my own thought voice. It doesn't happen all the time, which I'm thankful for because it'll probably drive me crazy, but it does happen enough times, and I am aware when I realize that it is a form of telepathy. Telepathy from whom, you may ask, and I ask that all the time. I'm not sure what being or what part of myself is sending this to me. I'm not sure if it's my higher self, another level of your consciousness. I'm not sure if it's my angels or my spirit guides or some other etheric being that I have a connection with. I am a channeler of light beings, and to date, I've channeled over 50 light beings that exist in other dimensional realities. I mentioned other dimensions of reality outside the earthly plane. These all vibrate at a different frequency than the earthly plane, and hence many of us are not aware and aren't sensitive enough to pick up on these other dimensional existences. But in our sleep state or another altered form of consciousness, you may be able to be cognizant of that, and that's what's happened to me since my spiritual awakening. I'm able to be lucid and go to these other dimensional realities, and I also realize I'm able to hear telepathically light beings. I call them light beings because they're beings of higher consciousness. They're of higher intelligences. And it is my soul plan, because I heard this telepathically, that I'm meant to be a channeler. I've heard telepathically I'm meant to be an oracle. I've heard the term oracle must be over hundreds of times since my awakening in 2009. So I'm very clear that that is one of my roles. And as an oracle or a messenger, to relay these light beings' messages to humanity. And I have done that. I've channeled over 50 different beings to date, and I've shared their inspirational messages on my blog and in written form. Excuse that short interruption. So this out of body, in this out of body on July 20th, I was going to explain the precursors as to what led up to it. And my spouse and I were watching one of our favorite news TV series called Stranger Than. I believe that's what it's called. It's a Netflix series. And I'm just going to quickly look up the name and make sure I'm relating it correctly to you, of that series. A Stranger Things, it's called. And it's this really cute fiction series, and I really enjoy it because it talks about other dimensions and other realities. So that may have spurred and been an impetus to the out of body I was going to experience a few hours later in my sleep state. Sometimes what activities you engage in prior, or what your thoughts are prior, might actually promote an out of body experience when you fall asleep or meditate shortly thereafter. And so I do feel like this science fiction series, which actually goes into portals and gateways and other dimensions, but these are actually darker dimensions, and it's called the underside, or the upside down. So I believe that stimulated a level of my consciousness. So I fell asleep on the couch, and I do that from time to time. And this was unusual because this out of body was unusual. So I'm looking at the variables that could have contributed to this extraordinary out of body. So I'm analyzing it here for you so you can understand. And so I fell asleep on the couch. And at some point in the early AM, I felt my husband's presence. And our bedroom is upstairs, and I fell asleep on the living room couch downstairs. And my eyes were still closed, but I could feel him. I knew he was there. I thought maybe he walked into the kitchen and was just making sure I was asleep on the couch, and then he just walked away. But again, I did not see him. I did not wake up. I simply sensed him. Now, this is a very good teaching point. This is the third time that I can recall since 2009, since my awakening, where I've actually sensed someone that in the house, and they told me later in the morning that they weren't there. So what that means, and I'm going to teach you now about another term. This is one term that can be used to describe this. I mentioned a level of your consciousness does exit your physical body to roam around and have adventures in these other dimensional realms when you're in an altered state of consciousness. Well, some people have referred to that level of consciousness as your astral body. And when you have an out of body, they call it astral projection. So what I felt was my spouse's astral body. I sensed his body. He had actually exited out of his body in our bedroom upstairs, and it did come down and make sure I was there on the couch sleeping soundly. Because when I asked him in the morning, he said he didn't do that. But I know, because I felt that was him. So that's amazing to me, proof that we have a level of our consciousness called our astral body that can exit free from the physical body and leave and explore and travel. So I haven't had one of those in a while. I had one of those about probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe. Again, it was with my spouse, and we were sleeping together in our bedroom at nighttime, and I was laying flat on my back, and I actually felt him lean over and kind of lightly kiss me on the cheek, on my left cheek, and then kind of roll back and back to his side of the bed. And I could feel the weight of his body. And in the morning, when I asked him if he did that, he said he didn't do that. So again, I was feeling my spouse's astral body. And it did have some level of density because I actually felt the weight of it. So that was another occurrence of sensing someone's astral body that you know, that's in the physical residence that you're in. And the other time, the third time this happened, these two times are prior, is I was sleeping at nighttime in my master bedroom, and my bedroom is on the first floor. This was another house we lived in, and my bedroom door was open, as I leave it open when I sleep at night. And I was asleep, and I felt my young daughter's presence at her bedroom door. I don't think she came in, but she was like maybe a foot into the bedroom space. And I knew it was her. I knew she had come to visit or see her mother, me, and then she left. It was just a few seconds, and I believe I had a conversation with her, and I asked her if she'd come into my bedroom the night prior, and she said no. So here are 3 instances where I sensed a loved one's astral body in the space that I was in when I was in a sleep state. And I know some of you, validly so, can say that's BS, that's no proof, but I'm telling you, what I felt was so real, and you just sense their essence without them being in their physical body. So it's an amazing, amazing phenomena. I want to share that just in case you may become aware of this now. And I would love to hear your comments if you've had any such experiences of sensing other people's astral bodies, like in your sleep state. And I'm hearing now, I told you I get things telepathically, and I'm hearing now it's like another part of your psychic sense to be able to do that. Okay, there's different types of psychic senses, including clairvoyance. I told you about clairaudience, which includes telepathy, but this sensing of someone's astral body. And this only happened to me when I myself was very relaxed and like in a sleep state, in an altered state of consciousness, when my brain waves were in that more relaxed state. I don't know the exact brainwave state, whether it's beta or theta, but it certainly wasn't alpha. Okay, so that was a precursor to this out of body that night on July 20th, 2019. I sensed my husband his astral body coming down and actually being just a few feet away from me on the couch. And so then a short time after that, it's hard to say what the time frame was, I started becoming lucid and remembering details, and I found myself in my office on the first floor, and I was actually sitting on my Reiki table. I'm a Reiki master. I do energy healing from time to time, and I have a massage table in my office to give people treatments. And I was actually sitting on my Reiki table, and it was very dim, and I was looking out into the rest of my office. And that's not something I do in the earthly plane, just sit on my Reiki table. But I did that during this out of body. And I said to myself, I think I'm going to have an out of body. I think I could have an out of body right now, because I've learned to recognize the signs, because I must have had hundreds of out of bodies since my awakening. And so I do this thing, which if you read about how to initiate an out of body, they do recommend this technique sometimes. On the side of my Reiki table, there was a magnifying glass lamp attached. In reality, there's no such lamp attached to my Reiki table. I do have a lamp like that, but I'm no longer using it. My husband's using it for his laboratory. So this is another teaching point. When you have not a body, you could find yourself, astral project yourself into your house or a room in your house, but it could be different. It's not usually exactly the same. It's the next level of dimensionality of your house. I used to use the word distorted to describe this, a distorted view of your house, but I feel it's not accurate. It's not distorted. It's real for that house on that dimensional reality. And whenever you project, this is another teaching point, whenever you find yourself in your actual living space, like your bedroom that you're currently sleeping in, or your kitchen, or your living room, you're really in a dimensional reality that is very close to the earthly plane. You haven't projected out into another dimensional reality that's vibrating at a way higher frequency. It's almost, and I'm hearing the word parallel, like you're at a dimensional reality that's adjunct to the earthly plane. The earthly plane is here, you're here. But sometimes, I go here. I go way yonder. But this time I didn't. And usually most of my out of bodies, I'm in whole different, you could say I'm all the way across the world. I'm all the way in different, I don't even want to use the word planet, but I'm just using that as an analogy. But in this out of body, it was in the next level closest to the earthly plane. And because I was actually in my office on my Reiki table. But again, there was a lamp there that is not there in my earthly existence. And so I knew I was sensing that I was going to have an out of body. So there is this technique, you may read about it, where if you feel like you're going to have an out of body, it's a good idea if you're lucid enough to tell yourself, let me see if I can put my hand through this wall or put my hand through this piece of furniture. And if your hand is able to go right through a material, then that's the cue to you that you're in an out of body. So I've used this technique quite a few times. It has helped me. And I have to be honest with you, sometimes I can't believe I can remember to do that. So I was trying to put my hand through the lamp base to see if I was having an out of body. And I was actually going like this. I wasn't penetrating it. And I said, no, I know I'm having an out of body. So then I went like this again, and my hand went right through. And so I said, I'm in an out of body right now. I'm in another dimensional reality. So I knew that. I was lucid enough to know that. So then I tell myself, well, let me get up. So I get up off the Reiki table I had been sitting on. And that's another teaching point. The moment that you lift or move out of a chair or lift out of your bed, that's a very crucial moment in out of bodies. And I'm hearing telepathically to teach this, that takes a lot of energy, activation energy to get to that point. It's like when you actually eject. So I got off the table and pretty easily. Sometimes I have difficulty, and it's almost like there's a force or a pressure holding you back, and you can't get up. You can't stand up in the out of body. But this time, I had enough momentum, enough force. I had enough chi energy, and I was able to get up off that table. And so now I'm going to go exploring in the next level of reality of my house, okay? Now, another reason why I want to share this today is because this is the first time I've had an out of body with this house that we are in. We just moved into this house 7 months ago. And I've kind of been waiting to see when I was going to have a lucid out of body with this house as its setting. Because I know it takes something I've noticed with my own experience, it takes a few months or something for your unconscious to catch up with your conscious life. And so this was my first lucid out of body in our house that we had just lived in for 7 months. So I really want to chronicle this, okay? So I walk into my spouse's office, and there's a group about 15 people in there. They're talking, they're chatting. It's some sort of gathering. I don't know anybody in there. And there's a man, he's in his 30s or so, with like olive skin, shorter hair. And he looks ethnic. He looks like he's a mix, where his mother might be South American, and his father might be another nationality. He definitely was a mix of heritage. And as soon as I walked into this office, my husband's office, and my husband's office was very similar to as it is in this dimension. This man was standing right in front of the 3 large windows he has on the back wall. So that was the same as in the earthly plane. There was a difference though. My spouse has like a reclining chair in front of those windows. That reclining chair was not there in this dimensional reality. And I was doing this silly thing, and I do these things in out of body sometimes because I'm uninhibited. I don't act the same way as I do in the earthly life, where there's rules and that would be considered silly. So I do this thing where I'm kind of dancing into the room, like doing these dance steps, and I'm singing to myself. I'm singing like a pop song with a beat, and I'm kind of dancing and shuffling around, and enjoying myself. And I do that, and I get into a line with a man, unfamiliar man. And as soon as it's almost like I was getting into position. And as soon as I came into the room, was dancing my way in, the whole room stopped talking, and everybody was just looking at me. And the man at the front of the that was standing up, like he was the leader or giving some sort of presentation, or he was some sort of facilitator, he just looked at me from the side of his eyes, and I could tell he did not like me, or he was not agreeable to me, or he was having a hard time with me. He was not hospitable. But I have to be honest with you, I really didn't care. And so I was even continuing to dance for a few more seconds by myself. And then after about, it seemed like 15 seconds, he was just looking at me, and not in a kind way, with a stare. All of a sudden, he turned away and he started talking to somebody, and now the room was back to its original activity. People were talking, engaging normally. And so I kind of walk. So the next thing you know, and this is another teaching point, is the scenes can change very quickly in an out-of-body. There's may not be a linear sequence. It may not seem to be reasonable, and you should know that. Things just happen like that. You're here 1 second, you're there the next second, and it's all normal in out-of-bodies. And so next thing you know, I'm walking down the hallway from my spouse's office, and I'm with 4 people. And 2 of them are African American, and one's a female, one's a male. They're on the younger side, and they're wearing like black polos and some kind of uniform. And on their uniform, on their left side, there's actually a logo, and there's a word, and the word was worm, WORM. And there's actually a little logo of like a cartoon worm on it, very simple. And I realized they were the security team. There was 4 of them. They were part of the security detail for this gathering. And I was walking them out. And that's not unusual. Teaching point, another teaching point, not a bodies. I find that I'm usually not there alone. I mean, I might not know anyone in the out of body or recognize them, but I seem to have this team, this backup team that is following me and protecting me, like detail. And this has happened in more than one out of body. And usually they don't introduce themselves. They're just on the perimeter, kind of watching things out, doing surveillance, I'm hearing telepathically, to make sure everything's going smoothly, and if something goes ajar, they're going to be there to be of help and for protection. So again, here I'm with my security detail that I had for this out of body, and I actually walked them out. And before that, though, I want to say, I know I talked about being in the office and kind of dancing around and getting that unwelcome glare from the facilitator. And then another thing that happened before I walked down the hallway with my security detail was there was a man took to the center of the room, and he had a black polo and black pants on, and he's talking about his girlfriend, and he's kind of bragging, and he's bragging about what he does to her sexually. And his girlfriend was right there, and she's not saying anything. She just has a small smile on her face. And I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking to myself, this is inappropriate. You shouldn't be sharing this in front of me or in front of this group. This is just not what a gentleman would do. It's very inappropriate and crass. And so I was very critical of him. So then fast forward to I'm walking my security detail down the hallway to escort them out. And now I'm in the foyer of our house, and there's a group of people, maybe it's hard to say how many, 4 or 6. And I don't know why, but I think to ask them, and I say to them, I ask them, is this my house? No, I ask them, whose house is this? Because I am lucid enough to know that I am in another dimensional reality, and in this dimensional reality, maybe this house isn't mine. Maybe I'm just a visitor. Because, you know, things change in dimensional realities. It's not an exact mapping one-to-one to what you experience in your waking state on the earth. So I just want to verify. And so I asked the group, I said, whose house is this? And the group says to me, it's your house. And I'm like, oh, and I was so happy. I said, oh, good, it's still my house in this dimensional reality. And I have to be honest with you, sometimes I'm afraid to ask these type of questions because the people I'm interacting with might right away get that I'm strange, I'm a traveler, I don't really belong there, you know, I'm a newbie. And so for whatever reason, I felt confident in asking them that question, because that question really could have opened up a can of worms in another dimensional reality. And I could have been in a precarious situation for my safety, etc. And so I was so happy that this was still my house. And now I'm getting very confident because I know it's my house. This is my house. I make the rules. I make the decisions here. And so right away I say, well, I say, because that man that was wearing the black polo and black pants, who was making those crass, perverted remarks about his girlfriend, he appeared in front of me, and I said to him, well, you're going to be replaced. You're going to be replaced, because I'm not going for that. Now that I know it's my house, I'm like, you're going to be replaced. And he said something like, well, I'm your trainer, or he said, I'm your coach, and you pay me 51 or 52,000 a year. And I said to him, nope, you're going to be replaced. And because, you know, I don't condone that type of behavior. And so then my husband appeared now. He hadn't appeared up to this date. So another level of my spouse's consciousness appeared in this out of body. And I was happy to have him there. And we all walk into the kitchen. And the kitchen is very much like the kitchen on the earthly plane. So overall, this astral level, dimensional level of my house was a very good simulation, very good, a very good replica. And now I see a few photos on the backsplash of our kitchen. And these are just individual family photos. And I think many of them I'm hearing vintage. They're black and white. And they're like 3x5 standard size photos. And, you know, there's one photo here on my backsplash, one photo there. There's like random photos with a foot or two in between each other. I'm just sharing this with you so you can see the amount of detail I can recall. And I look at one of the photos, and it's a photo that I have from my earthly life of my father, who's in spirit, may he rest in peace. When he looked very dapper. It was like from the 1950s or something, and he had a coat and he had a hat and it was cocked. He looked like Grace Kelly or something like that. And that photo was on the backsplash. I couldn't believe it. And then I look and I see there's another photo, and this photo turns into a video. And that's another teaching point. I've been in a few out of bodies where they have unique technologies that we don't have on the earth. And I've experienced this before, when you're looking at a photo and it actually becomes 3D and animated. It's like so much fun. And so this has happened to me quite a few times. And so this is what happened. This flat photo became a video. And it was of an unknown room, and there was two couches facing each other. And my mother was sitting on the edge of the couch. And I was a little baby. I was like a year and a half years old, and I had my hair done. My mother used to do my hair in a way where she put all up into a ponytail, or, you know, like Pebbles from the Flintstones cartoon series, and she would do that a lot. And so my hair was in that, you know, iconic, you know, with a single ponytail up there, and I was like crawling around, and I knew it was me. I said, that's me, and that's my mother. And so I was just so happy in this out of body, because I had the same father, I had the same mother. I looked the same as I did when I was a child. And my husband's there with me in the out of body, so he's still my husband, because I've had out of bodies where I've had other relationships, other children, other parents. I've had out of bodies where I look in the mirror and I have blonde hair and green eyes, or I look in the mirror and I'm a man with a beard in a wheelchair. So this was very comforting to have so much similarities with my earthly plane. So this out of body was so close in dimensional frequency to the earthly plane, okay? And that to me is so rare. So I say to my spouse, I say, you know, we should go upstairs and try to find some more photo albums, because I really want to see what other things I could glean and learn from this out of body about my family, my background, my ancestors. And I say that to my spouse, but before I say that, I notice that there's a female that walks into the room. She's like middle-aged, she has a bob, it's like auburn. She walks in and there's a man right behind her, 2 feet, and I know that's her companion, her love companion, or possibly her husband. They were romantically linked. I just sensed that. And she walks in and she has two trays. On each tray, there's probably like 8 big jumbo muffins. And then there's some of them are covered with plastic wrap. So she's bringing to this group or gathering jumbo muffins. I just noticed it because she was a few feet away. And then next thing you know, I mean, I look in front of me and there's a cast iron skillet, like 7-inch in diameter. And it's the same exact one I have in the earthly plane that I cook and reheat out of regularly. I like to use cast iron to increase my iron intake. And she had warmed up a carrot muffin, a carrot jumbo muffin for me, put it in this cast iron, and now I'm eating it, okay? And it was so soft that when it broke open, you could like take your fingers and consolidate again like that. And that's what I was doing. So, and I said to myself, oh, so nice. This woman brought muffins to this gathering. That's like a sign of hospitality. And that's another teaching point. I mentioned having helpers that you may not be aware of or even conscious of during the out of bodies. Another common theme for me, it might not be for you, but for me, it is bringing groups of people together and then like putting out like a banquet, like food and chocolate samplers or little finger hors d'oeuvres. And it's almost like it's a celebration. And it's almost like the universe is saying, we're so happy that you're having this gathering and that you're lucid and that you've connected in this way. Here, have some goodies. That is definitely a symbol for me, and that's how I interpret it, and I believe it's valid for me. So it was really such a special out of body. And another comment I just want to make before I forget. I'm sorry, I'm just ad-libbing this, and sometimes things come in not in a time sequence. But when I was in the foyer with a group of people that I didn't really know, and I asked them, you know, whose house is this? And they're like, it's your house. I'm like, oh yeah, you know, well, it's my house. And then I said something about, well, you know, that man, now, because I told you, I felt like I had power. I said, that man in the other room, he was not happy to see me, and he wasn't nice to me. And one woman says to me, she goes, yeah, but it was only like that for a few minutes, and then he got over it. And so I'm like, this is funny. Like, this is funny. Why would I invite that guy to a party at my house and he's going to treat me like that? But obviously the other guests, they accepted him in his way, and they're like, oh, don't make a big deal out of it. He was fine with you after a few minutes. It's just it's a funny thing about human relationships and behavior. So anyway, I woke up from this out of body, and because I'm still sleeping on the living room couch, and I checked the time. It was 4:52. Okay, and I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, that was the most amazing out of body, so much lucidity. I had so much recall. It was an out of body in the next level to this existence. And I met some people, and I saw my another life that I have. I have another life in this dimensional realm. Look at the photos. You know, the photo that became a moving video. I have another existence, but I still have a lot of the same family members. So there's synchronicities, you know. So this out of body to me was proof of a concurrent existence. All right, I experienced that in not the most 100% way, but I definitely touched it, right? And so I'm in bed now upstairs, and I'm just so happy. I'm so happy and thankful for this out of body. And I'm thanking the universe, thanking my higher self, thanking my angels, oh, thank you for this amazing out of body. Oh my God, I loved it. And I kind of pondered, why did I have this out of body now? On Saturday, July 20th, 7 months after we moved in. Why? Because I like to be analytical. And so then I thought about it. I said, it was probably some kind of reward, because the week prior, I had video blogged 2 other out of bodies. And I also shared a sound file on being a people pleaser and living your authentic life. So I had done some production output in terms of spirituality that week. And I said, this is how the universe, my angels, reward me, because I know that having these loose out of bodies sometimes means more to me than money. Okay. And they know I get such a big kick and thrill out of it, and it tickles my toes. And so they're like, oh, let's reward her, for her good karma. We'll give her we'll let the circumstances, I'm hearing, be conducive to have this amazing out of body. So I feel that's why I had the out of body at that time. It was some kind of good karma reward for my gifts that I've given to the universe about these type of teachings. And then another thing I noticed, my eyes were closed. I was having so much third eye activity. That's the space in between your third eye. At the end of, when I went upstairs, my third eye was super active. I was getting all these visions and images with my eyes closed. And so when I say that, is if you close your eyes and look in front, in between your eyebrows, I was getting pictures of landscapes. And sometimes it'd be on the upper left hand. Sometimes it'd be in the middle of my third eye. Sometimes it would be only 10% of my third eye. It was all these random third eye activity, visions and images that I couldn't make sense of. But there was one that I did see immediately when I closed my eyes, and it was a simple line drawing of a cross. Just like that and like that, okay? And that's a symbol that I've seen quite a few times, especially in the early years of my awakening in 2009 on. I see just a simple cross in my third eye. It just takes up part of my third eye. It's not like this huge ornate gold cross. It's just 2 intersecting lines. And that's a symbol for me. That's a symbol for me of Christ consciousness. It's also a symbol of unity. So I haven't seen that in a while. And I did see it when I went back to sleep and was pondering, well, not when I was sleeping, but I was pondering the significance of this out of body. And then I also noticed, because I want to be scientific about this, that when I woke up and went upstairs to go to sleep in my bed, there was lightning storms outside our windows, and these were huge lightning storms. And there was no thunder. And so, but it just lit up the whole cloud, a nightscape. And these were almost like strobing lightning storms, where it would like flash and flash again, like that. And I said to myself, I wonder if this contributed to my unique out-of-body experience. Maybe the ionic, energetic activity in the atmosphere, somehow a level of my consciousness stimulated it, and then I had this crazy detailed out-of-body experience so close to the earthly realm on the astral level. And that's very difficult to achieve for me, because usually I like I told you, I go far out into other dimensional frequencies. But and then I started counting those light flashes, and when I went upstairs to bed, I experienced 3 more of those lightning flash. I mean, I saw them through my windows, and I said to myself, there must be something special about these enormous lightning activity. I'm sure somehow it contributed to my my out of body. I'm sure that was a factor, because I haven't seen lightning flashes like that at nighttime since we moved into the house. And then, I have this out of body, and I see 3 or 4 of these lightning flashes. And another teaching I want to pull in is that I had just read a Facebook post like 3 or 4 weeks ago about how sunlight is good for the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is associated with your third eye chakra, with your clairvoyance. And it's said that you should not wear polarized sunglasses so that the sunlight can interact with your pineal gland. Your pineal gland is an actual physical organ about the size of a pea. And it's like this inside your head, in the center of your head. And it's really, I'm hearing telepathically, it's really the controller, like, of your psychic activities. It's like the center. It's like the hub. And so I read this article about how sunlight is good for the pineal gland. And I was really intrigued by that. And I had never heard that before. And it kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And that's how I know that there's some psychic relevance to it. That's how the universe or my higher self shows me this is important. We're not going to let you forget about it. So it's always going to be kind of in the back of your mind. And then that night when I had my out of body and saw the lightning flashes at the end of it, I said to myself, that's it. It's not only sunlight that activates the pineal gland, it could be lightning. And I said, touche. Now I know why that thought kind of sat in my head for a few weeks, gestating, because I pulled it out and used it for this out of body as irrelevant. I'm hearing telepathically, irrelevant contributing factor. Okay, so there you go. I hope you learned something from this about the nature of out of bodies, the nature of your multidimensionality, your ability to travel to other dimensional realities, and again, the possibility of going to the ones the closest to the earthly plane. And like, actually, like for me, this was momentous, even though I've had a few of these before, you know, actually seeing your other family, other dimensional life, you know, through the photos, and seeing yourself when you were younger, you know, in this other dimensional reality, seeing that little video. I think that's huge. That means that we have concurrent lives. Okay, and I'm not the only one. It's just a matter of how conscious we are of it. And that really is a shifter. Huge consciousness shifter. Well, please share your comments, and I would love to hear any relevant feedback or your own experiences. I look forward to sharing with you again in the future. Namaste.